now Senator Tom Cotton, someone who has rightfully viewed China with an extremely skeptical and critical eye, but long before this ever happened, and he's gotten a lot of grief for it. Senator, how do we protect against a disease coming into the United States? It's already killed a lot of people, that originated in a country we can't trust with just primary, rudimentary information about medical or other issues.
Laura, thanks for having me on to discuss this important matter. So the president made the very decisive step about 3 weeks ago to stop all air travel from China into the United States. That was an important step. Now we have to realize, though, that more than 1.5 million people came from mainland China starting in mid-November until late January, whenever the president instituted that travel ban. So it's very important that our public health officials know if anyone got any kind of viral pneumonia, especially if they were in China or in contact with someone who was in China. It's also critical that we have a surge of resources into our pharmaceutical and our biotechnology industries, supported by our national institutes of health and other national laboratories, to try to identify effective, competent diagnostic testing and a vaccine as quickly as possible. I have high confidence in the state of American ingenuity in medicine and science. I have very low confidence in the state of Chinese politics, because their government is still lying to the world about this deadly serious matter.
Now, this plane that carried all these individuals back into the United States, there's a long piece in the Washington Post about how there was a raging debate, including the Centers for Disease Control and other administration officials, about whether to allow these individuals back in, given how little information we really know about real incubation periods, real ability to test, et cetera. The Centers for Disease Control said, I guess you guys can do what you want, but we're not putting our names on this press release you're putting out. Now, that concerns me a lot, that there seems to be a stark disagreement within our government about how to handle infected patients.
So, Laura, I think it was a very last-minute decision, given the facts on the ground. These Americans were on the Diamond Princess cruise ship in Japan. It seems now a very unwise decision of the Japanese government to have kept all those passengers on the cruise ship, given the way it has spread across the cruise ship. Americans who were known to have the coronavirus were taken to Japanese hospitals, but we had about 350 Americans who are going to board planes to come back to American military bases where they'll be quarantined here. At the last minute, apparently about a dozen of them tested positive. Fortunately, the planes already had segregated areas for people who appeared symptomatic in flight. I understand it was a tough call at the last minute, and there were not surprisingly disagreements. I think Donald Trump's democratically accountable officials made the decision, though, that they wanted to err on the side of bringing Americans back to the United States, and I'm sympathetic to that decision. All of those people, whether they were symptomatic or not, are now under quarantine on military basis.
All right, Senator, the other night I pressed the head of the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, about China's trustworthiness, and here's what he said.
The WHO has finally gotten a team of people, an international group, to go over there. Right now, at this point in time, I believe those numbers.
I'm surprised that you would say that, given what we know about China's pattern of lying.
In my direct interaction with Chinese scientists and Chinese health officials, not party politics people, but medical people and scientists, that I can believe what they're telling me.
Senator, do you have the same view of Chinese scientists? And there's like a line between the scientists and the CCP, the Communist Party of China?
Well, first, Laura, I want to say that I have the highest respect for Dr. Fauci.
So do I.
But I do have a different perspective here.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree that China's scientists and doctors can in some cases be world-class and they can be professional. However, they have sitting next to them at every level of government a minder from the Chinese Communist Party. And I do not have any confidence in those party apparatchiks allowing China's scientists or their doctors to speak freely to anyone outside of China, especially officials in the United States government. That's why we've seen the numbers of this coronavirus continue to spike in kind of strange, unpredictable patterns. Those aren't newly discovered cases. Those those are newly disclosed cases because China is carefully managing the flow of information about this virus.
Yeah, and you've been called someone who floats conspiracy theories because you questioned the comments or the justification they gave about how this all started. And you mentioned the fact that there's a level 4 lab in the Wuhan province where thought to have biological weapons capability of production. Any new thoughts on that?
Well, Laura, we know that it didn't start in the Wuhan food market. That was the original story of the Chinese Communist Party. So it's only responsible to ask where it did start. I still think the most likely hypothesis is it was naturally occurring, but given the proximity of that laboratory to the food market, it is only reasonable that we ask the Chinese Communist Party to be open and transparent about the kind of research they were conducting there and the safety protocols and practices they had in place. Until China provides the evidence, we cannot know for sure where this virus originated.
Senator, thank you for raising these questions. Few are doing so, and we really appreciate your leadership in general on the China question. So thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Laura.
All right.